Hey guys, how's it going? Solo back with another episode of 10-Minute Trades. And today we're going to be taking a look at Nike stock, ticker symbol NKE. So let's get right into it. We're looking at the daily chart here. So every candle represents 1 day of trading. If I zoom out here, you can see this is a nice looking stock. Over the past few years has been up and to the right. Of course, we had a decent sized pullback earlier in this year, like we had with the whole market overall, and we have been setting basically all-time highs ever since late August. We just keep climbing higher and higher. Again, we had this recent pullback because of September, just like the overall market did. We can see we had this big gap up here off of earnings between September 22nd and September 23rd, and we continue to climb higher even after that big gap up. So let's get right into it and see what the technical analysis will show us on Nike stock. The first thing I want to do is I want to look at the Fibonacci retracement levels, and I could draw them from the recent lows back in March to basically the all-time highs that were just a few trading days ago. But I think a more accurate level is going to be from the most recent lows back on September 21st to the most recent highs back on October 12th, and that would look something like this. So I can actually adjust this just a little bit to try and be a little bit more accurate there with the bottom of that wick. Make it like that. And top of this wick here, like I said, on October 12th. The first thing I notice is that this 23.6% Fibonacci level does look like for the end of September was an area of resistance and then acted as support for the past 2 or 3 trading days. And then if I keep looking, looks like this 61.8% Fibonacci level was a pretty strong area of resistance. You can see we tried to break above it on September 15th, promptly bounced down below it. And then even here, this 38.2% Fibonacci level looks like it was acting as support on September 24th, 28th, 29th, and pretty much October 2nd as well. This orange line here represents the 21-day moving average. The pink line represents the 50-day moving average. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But let's get right into it and try and draw a few areas of support and of resistance that I've identified. So there's a few of them here, so I'm going to do them a little bit quickly. Let's do 2 or 3 at a time. The first thing I noticed, however, is this gap up, like I mentioned, from September 22nd to September 23rd, we did gap up. So between about $117 and $125, there is a gap that has not been completely filled. You can see we filled it very briefly after that day of earnings, but really there's still a few dollars wide, probably I would say $4 or $5 wide worth of gap that has yet to be filled. So we might have a pullback at some point. I don't think in the short term, maybe more in the midterm, but let's try and identify areas of support and resistance. So the first thing I noticed was back where we are currently trading for the past basically 2 weeks of trading, you can see again, there's an area of support at about 127, and that's right where that Fibonacci retracement line is. And then I drew the all-time high at about 131 as an area of resistance. You can see for about 2 weeks of trading, we've been bouncing in between those two price levels. So that's kind of nice, because if I were to want to go long with shares of stock, I want to be obviously closer to the bottom of that range to get a good deal on the shares. Or if I'm looking to sell options, let's say open some cash secured puts, I want to sell a strike that's at least below 127. Not financial advice, but that's just what I would do, just my opinion. Let's keep working here, see if we can identify other areas of support further down. And I'm going to draw these all at the same time, because basically everything is support, because we're trading at all-time highs, seems like every single day. So another area of support is again right at the bottom of this gap at about 117. And I say that because if I zoom out, you can see ever since about early September, had a hard time. There was a little bit of resistance there till we finally broke above it for a few days in mid-September, but we promptly, like I said, broke back down it. And then again, before we gapped up, that's pretty much where we topped out. There's another area down about 112, which is pretty close right to where we drew that bottom of that Fibonacci line. So that's not very accurate in terms of Fibonacci retracements, because I'm the one that chose that level. But you can see if I go back to end of August, there are basically a week's worth of candles that pretty much topped out right at 112. If I keep working here at 107 and 104, for about a trading week, we traded in that channel as resistance and support back in mid-August. And especially this 104, 105 price level, you can see it was acting as a pretty strong area of resistance for about a week of trading in early June. If I zoom out here, it was also at resistance back on mid-January and also mid-February. So I think that is going to be a relatively strong area of support right now at about 104, 105. Now further down, I believe around 96, 93, and $92, there's some areas of support you can see for about a month's worth of trading. I would say actually a little bit less than a month. $96 was pretty supportive of the price, and even back here on January 31st at $93 and $92 roughly, you can see again we kind of acted as support for a few trading days. Again, end of June. If I scroll out here, you can see these price levels were acting as supports back in the end of last year as well. Lastly, I didn't go too crazy, but around $84 I think is another area of support you can see back on May, early to mid-May, and then even early to mid-April it was acting as support, and then even back here on end of August of last year it was acting as support. Let's zoom back in here to get more current. The other thing is, I can identify an upward trend ever since about early August. We're kind of in this upward trend. So I drew a trend line that looks something like this to try and incorporate the bottoms of a few of these candles. You can see sometimes we're trading above it, we bounced off it, we traded below it, came back above it, below it, gapped up. So we're pretty much following this upward trend. However, basically the last 4 days of trading, we did again break down below it. Now, I am short-term bullish on this stock. And when I say short-term, I mean basically the next few days of trading for a couple reasons. Let's draw a parallel channel to see where we are so I can further describe why I say that. So similar to this trend line, I drew this parallel channel to try and incorporate the majority of these trading candles. Again, it's up and to the right. We had a few outliers here. You can see back in middle to late September and then this big gap up candle here. But if you notice, we did break down below it again on October 15th and 16th, the last 2 trading days. So I think we're going to have a green day. I'm bullish short term because I think we're going to get back inside this parallel channel. And also because, like I said, I think around 127 is an area of support because that's where the Fibonacci retracement level is. And also based on the trend for the past few trading days, you can see this candle, this candle, this candle, and pretty much this wick all bottomed out at about 127. Not only that, but this 21-day moving average is slowly creeping up towards there. So that's also going to be an area of support. I would expect by early to mid of next week, this support level is going to be about 126 to 127 as well. So again, if I were looking to sell options on this, I would want to sell cash secured puts personally below a strike of 127 because I think 127 is going to be a very strong area of support, because I would not want to be assigned shares of stock right now just because, in my personal opinion, the market is very tenuous and kind of on edge, especially with the election and some catalysts coming up with the news and stimulus talks. So that's why I am short-term bullish. Now, again, if I'm looking to buy shares, I would wait maybe for a slight pullback, or honestly, I would want to get in as early as possible early next week because, again, I think we're going to rally up the next few trading days on Nike. That's pretty much my 10-minute trade analysis on Nike. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my TA. Let me know if you've ever traded shares or options on Nike. I personally haven't. If you're not in our Discord server already, you're missing out. As always, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And happy trading.